Okay, good evening. We'll get started. I'll call the order of the Village Board of Oregon for Monday, March 16th, 2026. I would ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Higgins.
Here.
Kirchdorfer.
Here.
Knipfer.
Here.
Marks.
Here.
McDaniel.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
And Van Campen.
Here, thank you. Item 3, approval of February 25th, 2026 and March 2nd, 2026 Village Board meeting minutes, if correct, and correction of mistakes, if any. Looking for a motion to approve. Higgins. Kirstover. Questions, comments?
I forgot to pay attention.
Oh, Higgins and Kirstover. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 4, public appearances, comments, and communications. Items for discussion and or possible action. A, presentation from Viridian Homes regarding potential annexation of land and concept plan for residential development of approximately 66 acres owned by Ronald R. and Julie M. Jenkins, Joint Revocable Trust, and Susan K. and Brian T. Connor, located north of Netherwood Road and west of Peterson Trail, tax parcel ID numbers 0509 031 95002 and 0509 031 9002 0 and 505, 0509 031 4022 0, located in the town of Oregon. And great, people are ready to introduce yourselves. And,
That was a hard intro to follow. So thank you, everybody. My name is Matt Brink. I am the Director of Land Development for Viridian Homes. With me is Brian with Vandewall, and Dan Day from Ignacio Kotke, our civil engineer, is here as well, if any questions warrant his appearance tonight. I'll just do a quick opening. Excited to be back before you guys. We were here a couple weeks ago for Plan Commission. I thought that went very well. We received some good feedback at that meeting. We've made some adjustments to the plan based on that feedback, so we're excited to show you that tonight. But we obviously have our development of Greenview Preserve in Oregon. So we always like to give a little bit of an update as to how those developments are going. We are through phase 3 out there. There are only 9 lots in that phase that have not been dug, so we are progressing very well. Phase 4 will probably be here within a month or so for that development agreement. That'll be our largest phase to date. That's 55 total lots that we will be seeking in phase 4. And when that phase is completed, there will only be 59 lots left in the Greenview Preserve plat. So pending this project moving forward on kind of the schedule that we have, phase 1 of this would be coming online right about the time the second to last or last phase of Greenview Preserve would be being brought online for building permits. So it's a very good backfill for us in Oregon. It's been a great market for us. The product that we've been providing has been received well. Staff's been great to work with. So again, we're excited to start this process with you now tonight. And of course, I'll answer any questions once we get through the presentation. And I'll turn it over to Brian.
All right. Well, again, Brian Munson with Vandewall Associates. Glad to be back here talking about another neighborhood here in the village. You know, just to kind of set the stage a little bit of how we approach our designs in all of our neighborhoods, we have a really strong set of guiding principles that go into any project before we even hit the ground running in terms of developing a concept. But they start with providing housing variety, finding ways to match options of housing that fit the spectrum of needs within the community, and then designing a neighborhood around that so that we're really focused on trying to find ways for as many people as possible to find their choice in housing within the neighborhood. And that's different price points, different formats, single family, twin home, the full spectrum of housing options, really trying to embed that into the design of the neighborhood up front. Coupled with that is trying to make sure that we have an eye towards the design of the neighborhood. How does the architecture work across the different types of housing? How does it create opportunities that folks will find enticing? And then how does that fit within the community through a range of different approaches, from looking at the surrounding area, what kind of park needs might be their need, what kind of trail connections might be needed within the neighborhood, but then set within a framework of walkable streets. The final piece of it is really sustainability, making sure that we're designing a neighborhood that addresses the environmental needs of that neighborhood. So really learning from the site itself. How do we design stormwater management? How do we design the grid of streets, the grading on the site, all to really build from the assets of the site and the surrounding area. And then bring that all the way into the houses, looking at energy efficient designs, environmentally sound practices, and the construction techniques used on site. And as Matt mentioned, this isn't an exercise in theory. It is an exercise in experience. And of course, we've got a really great experience here. We've really enjoyed working through the creation of the Greenview Preserve neighborhood, which began as a plan that looks like this. But of course, if you go out there, maybe not today, maybe yesterday, 2 days ago, it would look a little bit closer to this. Snowbanks are higher. But you can start to see neighborhood. To walk through some of the components, the original concept has approximately 135 carriage lane access single-family homes. And of course, you can see some of the examples here. And as always, I note all the pictures we use in this presentation aren't from a book that we got somewhere. These are all Viridian neighborhoods. So these are all examples of built environment. We've been working at this for a lot of years, so we've got a pretty big range of projects to draw off of for inspiration. But again, the carriage lane single family offers a attached garage at the back, a smaller lot, and typically more attainable price points. And that's really important because we want to make sure that first-time home buyers can find a house within this neighborhood, or folks who maybe just don't want a larger yard can also find a house within the neighborhood. And I would note that the living space of these houses are very comparable to the front-loaded single family. The difference, of course, is the yard configuration. We've moved the garage to the back. Yes, it has a smaller yard, but that, again, allows us to bring some price point sensitivity to the neighborhood, as well as give folks choices of housing within the community. Accenting that, we have 116 conventional single-family homes, so thinking of this as your street-accessed garage. And again, this offers price point diversity from first-time home buyer all the way up to move up in luxury within the project. And I would note as always that the architecture and design of these houses is really critical so that the single-family homes, whether you're on an alley or on a street access, can blend seamlessly within each other with a couple of important components on the front-loaded. You can note here, of course, the focus is on the porch, the focus is on the resident. We want to make sure the front door is the first thing that people experience, not necessarily trying to find the front door because it's buried behind the garage. In all cases, we'll have those porch elements towards the front. The garage is recessed back from the front facade of the house, again, trying to give that emphasis back on the resident to create a streetscape that's more pedestrian friendly and inviting for the community. I would also, and as I already noted, that the scale even within the front-loaded single family will transition throughout the neighborhood. As I mentioned, parks and open space is a important component of the design of the neighborhood, and it's not just the stormwater management, but we are looking at opportunities to incorporate a small tot lot within the community, recognizing we're right across the street from a community park on the north side of Netherwood, not wanting to duplicate facilities, but offer some amenities that would support the neighborhood and the surrounding area. We're also exploring the opportunity to create a new connection point to the Rotary Trail, which, having worked on that many, many years ago, a great asset for the community, but really has one point in, one point out at this stage. There's the east and the west entrances. So having a midpoint entrance will really hopefully increase the ridership and use of that facility because it'll be able to create some loops and connections within the community, which is exciting in the development of this neighborhood. And finally, of course, as I mentioned, the stormwater management is a really critical component of the neighborhood. We'll be working closely with village staff as well as our consultant engineers, Dan Day, to design this in a way that helps support not just the needs of this property, but looking into the context of the surrounding region. How does the stormwater function here? Recognize we have some enclosed basins, some depressions on the site, making sure that it's designed appropriately for the long term. As Matt mentioned, we do have a couple of things that we have been studying since we were here in front of the Plan Commission. One of the elements that was asked was to consider whether there's some additional attached product through the delivery of twin homes could be incorporated into the design. And so we have two concepts here. Again, these are just sharing as kind of an update. But one of the things we're looking at is to bring some attached for sale single family, so attached twin homes, they'd still be opportunities for purchase, where we would front some of those out towards Netherwood and incorporate some additional housing diversity and price point. We found in implementing these over the years that the twin homes can be a lower price point because of the attached product than the detached single family allows. And again, what we're trying to do here is respond to requests for more attainability, and so that's something that we're exploring right now. But again, overall, at the very front end of the process, we've got a lot of steps to go through to go from concept to eventual platting and construction, but wanted to make sure we're here early and often to share where we're headed and what the designs start to look like and be available to answer any questions. So, thank you.
Questions for these gentlemen? Tom?
I guess I was going to drive over that way today and wasn't able to get out to get over there. Is it the Netherwood Street, are we in pretty good shape there? Is that going to need sidewalks and curbing, and how all does that work into this project?
Absolutely. So right now it's a rural cross-section, and we've already had some conversations with staff about the need to upgrade that to urban standards across the face of this plat. So we're anticipating reconstruction of that street to include curb and gutter, sidewalks, potentially a parking lane on the north side. Again, what we're proposing in this concept is that the units would face out to Netherwood, so it's not the back side of a neighborhood, but really try to bring that street into the neighborhood with front doors, trying to reinforcing the travel speeds that are appropriate along that stretch. But to do that, we need to redesign that street and make sure that we're accommodating all the needs, giving places for pizza deliveries, Amazon drop-offs, guests, to be able to come to those front doors. So reconstruction of the street is something we're anticipating, and we'll work closely with village staff to do that. We believe there is enough right-of-way there currently, but as we go through this process, we've increased the setback on the fronts of those houses to give a little bit extra depth, so there's some flexibility. If we need to dedicate a little bit more right-of-way, or if we want a little bit more landscape, we've got room to do that in the design currently.
Thank you.
Lynn?
Yeah, I have just a couple of comments kind of off of that. One of the things that I think about most having a family and biking and walking is crossing Netherwood, right? You're going to have a huge amount of hopefully young families coming to want to cross and get to the park, but to the library, right? A lot of other facilities on the other side of Netherwood. And I think we can all agree that this is a space where speed is probably not as slow as it should be, right, Chief? She's nodding, great, I'm on the right track. And so I don't know if that is something that, again, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I think making sure that we're really being very conscious about where is a very significant crosswalk, right? That those families know is well marked and potentially, has flashing lights or something that will really keep those families safe, was one of the biggest things that stuck out to me. My second question is probably a silly one. I just don't quite understand it. The red dotted line walking trail, so I understand the one that goes north and hooks up to the trail. What's the one that's going out east?
Well, a couple things.
Okay.
We were looking to, as potentially the future of the Alpine Dairy property develops, whether there would be a desire for that trail to extend across that property. Again, just in concept right now.
Okay.
But certainly, we do want to connect from the Rotary Trail down to Netherwood through the heart of the site. And in this case, would be largely trying to replace the sidewalk with a trail off-street rather than on-street. Again, wanting to make sure that that's a facility that all ages can use
Sure.
as an access point. To your question about the crossing, yes, that's something we shared with staff as well as a concern. And so what we've done is we show that crossing kind of in our main entrance.
Okay.
The extension of Peterson Trail gets a little bit challenging because of how it was stubbed to the adjoining property ownership. The right-of-way from the south splits the property line with the house that's in the southeast corner of the site, which is not included in the purchase at this stage.
Sure.
And so we think there's going to be the possibility to have a one-way outbound
Okay.
on that spot. But our primary entrance is kind of that, what we're showing here as a boulevarded entrance to the west. And so we brought the trail to that point, anticipating that that would have the ability to redesign that intersection point with safe crossing. That could be, as you said, overhead beacons, crosswalks, bump outs, whatever that needs to be. That's something we'll work with staff to do. But that gives a direct connection point across, almost in alignment with where the trail cuts between the two wetlands and the park. Sorry, not the wetland, the stormwater basin and the park, so that there's a direct route into the neighborhood right
Great.
across from that intersection.
Yeah, and that boulevarded entrance is another change to the concept since the Planning Commission made that a little more prominent. We wanted a really nice entrance feature there and whatnot. So, yeah, that'll be a very nice entrance to the neighborhood we're anticipating.
Great. And then I just have one more, I'm so
Please.
sorry. My last piece, and this is probably just more for awareness for me and for others who might be watching and listening. When you talk about sustainability, I'm really interested in that, glad that we're thinking about that. The trees that I see on this concept plan are only along the streets. Is it safe to assume that there will be other trees in some of the stormwater area, probably around the park area, that the trees that are identified here are not the only trees within the site?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes. This is just an early stage concept for the land use.
Love it.
Primarily, but as we get further along, as I said, we're anticipating designing a small park, which would come with landscaping. Of course, all the lots themselves will have room for folks to bring landscaping to the table, bring some trees.
Great.
We're just kind of indicating at this stage that, we're supportive of obviously on-street trees to make part of that neighborhood, but as this gets further along, there'll be a lot more details.
Awesome. Thank you.
Anybody else? Tim?
Not a question, just a comment. I just want to say I appreciate your thoughtful and strategic approach to this and your ongoing collaboration with village staff. I give you high grades for that, and we're happy to work with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, this is just for discussion only tonight, but without objection, I'd like to jump to 7A. You gentlemen want to stick around for a moment. This is as part of the process of bringing in a new urban service area, they will need to go to the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission, and the sooner they can start that process, the better. So this is basically, this resolution will authorize them to go ahead and do so. So I will accordingly, resolution number 26-05, authorizing the submittal of an urban service area amendment to the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission for approximately 66 acres of land located north of Netherwood Road and west of Peterson Trail. Commission and staff recommendation, motion to approve. Tim and Amanda. Questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Returning to the agenda. Let's see, 4B, presentation from OCA Media regarding request for $31,533 in funding for broadcast video server and video camera replacements, video storage devices, and related installation services.
Good evening. Andy Weiland, I'm Vice President of the OCA Media Board. Here to just basically kind of present this proposal to you. I want to back up a little bit from the last time I was here in this capacity, which was when we were doing our funding request for 2026. At that time, you know, we had some discussion a little bit about, we have some challenges from a funding perspective for OCA Media. The folks are not subscribing as much to the traditional carriers, which produce the fees that traditionally the village has allocated for our purposes. So in kind of looking at our long-term perspectives and trying to figure out how we continue to service the community the best way that we can, we were looking at our equipment. And some of our equipment, quite honestly, is past its life by several years. One of those main pieces of equipment that allows us to actually broadcast on the traditional providers, the Charter and TDS. And we're worried that, you know, at some point in time that may not work anymore, and we don't have a path to continue to broadcast. So in discussions with Administrator Shanks, there was some conversation that we thought perhaps there would be some funding opportunities once the fiscal year was over for the village, that there might be some funding available to help us kind of put ourselves in a better position to secure our capital needs for the foreseeable future. So we put some ideas together with the cameras as well as the broadcaster server, and forwarded that to the village for consideration. Little concerned that the funding at this point is recommended to come from the fund that traditionally has paid for our operational expenses, simply because we understand that that fund is under pressure, and from an operational perspective, that could create some problems for us sooner than later if those funds don't come from that fund. So with that said, I guess I'll just open it up if anybody has any questions or that you have for us.
No questions? Tim?
I guess I feel like this decision has implications for future decisions. Like, there's money we could spend today, but then there's no money available later. What are we gonna do in a year? What are we gonna do in 2 years? What are we gonna do in 3 years? I mean, it seems like we need a different funding model.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. The one thing that we don't know is how quickly those fees are going to continue to dwindle. Hearing about additional houses warms our hearts, because perhaps we have a few more subscribers that would help continue the funding mechanism that has existed for decades. But yeah, we need to come up with an idea. We have been getting more aggressive in soliciting for donations, and I think that's been fairly successful. If you look back in a decade or so, we've significantly grown those resources. But that's still, you know, tenuous, and probably will depend a little bit on the economy. So we are very aware that we have an issue that we're gonna have to try to figure out. a different means to fund the operation if it's going to continue in its current model. So I think just to reinforce what you're saying is we'd rather have a little bit longer period of time to kind of figure those things out than a shorter period of time to figure that out.
Okay. Tom?
I guess I'd also, while it's possible to take some of the money from this, for this request from the cable franchise fee fund, I think depleting it 100% would be sort of like we would be put in a position that we would give them equipment that would last for several years and then not be able to provide them funding to actually operate that equipment. So I guess my suggestion there would be to maintain some portion of those funds. You know, whether we provide the 100% of this funding or not, I think that's something that we should discuss as a board.
I would offer, and perhaps I'm wrong, but whether we take the money now or we'll be taking it next year, but one way or another, the money's going to be depleted. I think we're just playing a shell game if we say, well, we're going to take the money from the general fund and leave it in that account, and next year rolls around, we're going to deplete that money anyway. So, I mean, if one would make a motion and indicate where the money wants to come from, that's fine, but I just wanted to make that point.
I wouldn't disagree that the funding mechanism we have for OCA is broken
Yes.
and needs attention. I guess this just would by funding some of it, by maintaining some of the capital franchise fee fund for 2027's allocations, they're going to take a haircut in 2027. We already know that. The question is, how big of haircut are we going to have to apply? If we can get another year or so out of the current process, that would buy us some time to come up with a solution.
Okay. Anybody else? Lynn, and then Amanda.
You want to go, Amanda? You had your.
No, it's okay.
I think I probably know the answer to this, but I'm going to just ask it because I think it's important. Have you reached out to the other partners that you received funding for this as well? I mean, in the memo, it kind of had mentioned that there were other, obviously this is not a one single, entity that supports you. So I'm just checking to see if like that ask has been given to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am Paul Zwicker, Director OCA. Yes, we've pursued many avenues of support. Most of it comes from a underwriting type for our sporting events for Panther Sports that we broadcast.
Okay.
Reached out to just recently to the boosters, and their president is going to make a request of their board to double the amount they're giving to $6,000. Whether or not that board decides to double what they've been giving us, that's at least $3,000 more than we had. It's very difficult in this community to put your hand out and ask for more from small businesses. There are very generous businesses in town who are giving and getting a little bit of PR back as an underwriter or sponsor of our events.
Sure.
Frank Caruso, our social media and storyteller, a man about town, he is also soliciting funds from some of the organizations that he's worked with, and they're coming forward with some money. It's never going to be enough to offset. I think we were at we raised about 28,000 last year.
A little less than that.
A little bit under. I was hopeful.
We
I'm a
did.
fisherman.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the town of Oregon increased their
Was it last year, 2 years?
Contribution.
Last
Couple years
year,
ago, yeah.
a couple of years ago, we asked them to increase, and they doubled to 4,000 from the town. So we hope that we will see that again from the town. Either way, we'll have to look at service cuts. We'll have to look at staffing cuts. We'll have to look at what the community will like to live without, because we won't be able to continue funding for part-time positions, plus our high school staff, and our our recent graduated high school staff who's running this board meeting tonight. This is a very, this is not something that anybody is getting rich doing. No one is, on our staff is getting benefits or anything. So it's kind of a heartfelt thing.
Thank you.
Amanda?
Yeah. All right, so I know that being on the OCA Media Board, you've really stepped up asking for money from businesses. Is there any inclination on the part of the school board to authorize any funds towards this? Seeing as how much sports we cover as OCA Media.
Yeah, so I'm here as the Vice President of OCA.
Sure, of course, of course.
So I don't have any direction from our Board of Education at this point in time. We do provide free rent and board and utilities and all those types of things, but yeah, that would have to be, when we get to that point, I think it'd be a good idea for everybody to kind of get together and try to figure out a path forward, and whatever path or whatever this looks like at that point in time.
No, that's fair. I wasn't trying to put you on the spot. I was just asking as in
Yeah.
general, is it something that the OCA Media Board might consider going to school district?
I think in brainstorming sessions that we've had as a board, I think that has come up. Formal ask hasn't been made yet, but I think all options would be on the table.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out what hat I'm wearing right now, but
I understand. Yeah.
Okay, Rick?
I think my concern is the same that I've heard already a little bit, is that we're being asked to purchase things that we don't know we have a future for. And I'd like to know more about any possible way of putting together the slices of the pie that bring us to a better operational budget before I would want to do a more long-term investment in the actual capital that we're being asked to invest in. I want to be able to invest in this. I want to be able to participate, but I'm not hearing a plan per se as to what you want to do going forward. So I would be tending to want to save most of our ability to support the organization in operational funding rather than increasing the infrastructure.
if I could respond just real quickly.
Please.
I think that's totally fair. I understand where you're coming from. The only concern that I'd want people to know with eyes wide open is there may be a day where that server breaks and we're not broadcasting. Now, we'll still be on YouTube, but we wouldn't be broadcasting as charter or TDS. Just so everybody understands that, that's just a risk that we have.
That answered my question. I was like, what happens if we don't approve this, right?
Yeah.
That equipment has been out of support for 5 years and is surprisingly cooking along 24/7 and doing what it's supposed to do. We program it 24/7 with repeats and live streams, and it's, knock on wood, been solid.
Tim?
As a village, we've been exploring a lot of collaborative opportunities with the other municipalities in the area. Are there any such opportunities for OCA to work with other cities and villages in the area where maybe you could share equipment or you could share other resources? Are you working on any of that?
Well, the broadcaster itself is not something you can share. It's ours. It goes to our channels on TDS and Charter and Spectrum. We do currently get equipment from Stoughton at, sometimes they just upgrade and they said, would you like this? It's not worth much, but it works. So we have some cameras that are from them that we have as backups to our backups. They're quite old, but they do work. The other municipalities, just like Stoughton, there are, I'm sorry, Fitchburg, McFarland, Stoughton, most of them are part of the village. They are department, I'm sorry, they are part of the municipality. Their department. Verona's part of their communications department. They have a one-person staff doing both things. We're unique. We're a nonprofit. We're not part of you. We just come to you to ask for funds to operate. And it's definitely different for us. There are very few of us out there who are a nonprofit, who are simply a service provider.
And that's a benefit to the village to some degree. As Paul mentioned, these folks aren't compensated very well. They're not in the pension system. They don't have health insurance, where these other communities provide those services to those departments and to those members. So I think to some degree, Stoughton has been a great partner with us, providing us those kind of hand-me-downs as a way to keep us working.
Anybody else? Amanda?
Okay, so this is just occurring, we haven't discussed this with the OCA Media Board, but I'm thinking to myself, you know, what's gonna prompt people in the community to donate? And as you have to whittle away things that you cover and all that, you know, people are gonna notice. But people are, I think, really gonna notice if all of a sudden you go dark. You know, like on cable access, the TV part. And I'm wondering if it would be easier to fundraise at that point, or, you know, like keep the funding in operations until some, you know, the equipment breaks, and then people will sit up and take notice and maybe throw money at you to help buy the new piece of equipment, or, you know, versus like having to cut operations, because then you're losing potentially some staff, experience, things like that. We're cutting the wrong things. We want to keep people that have that experience, because if they leave, then we're in trouble. Then if we get more money, there's no place to go with that. It's really hard to get new talent when you can't pay them very much. So we want to keep the people we have first and foremost. We can fundraise easier probably for things. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think I kind of understand what you're saying, Amanda. I think the thing that I have learned most in this role, and you guys have also probably learned, is that like the operations, keeping you going is like the utmost importance, right? Like operations is important. One-time funds is always one of those things where it's like super helpful, but like it's a little harder, right? Because it's a one-time fund. And so I agree. I also agree with Rick's comments. I think it's, you know, having a better plan. It doesn't, I don't enjoy that like you guys have to come every year, right? And we have to go through all of this. Like it would be really nice to have a funding mechanism and a plan that feels reliable and, you know, comfortable for you guys, comfortable for us. And so I just feel like having that plan would make these one-time funds either feel better on our side or potentially be able to be fundraised in a better way, because we know that operationally these things like will be sustainable, they will be in place, and so then those materials that you need are going to get used. We know they'll get used because we're ready to fund this entity for so many years. They kind of go hand in hand, right? And so I do feel like, to Rick's point, like having a better plan on the operations side makes these things potentially feel easier to do.
Okay. Tom?
I guess I appreciate what Lynn's comments and Amanda's comments. And I've been involved in OCA for about 10 years. And obviously, one of the things when I first got involved with OCA, it was pointed out that there was a timeline when this funding mechanism would break. And we've looked, we've talked, we've asked, and there's never enough impetus for anybody to take any action to try to form a group to come up with a solution. We have a group that we just formed as a committee to try and see what operational choices there are. And I guess if we're not going to fund capital equipment, then can we at least take an action to try and direct staff or someone to try to engage in finding a solution or assisting in finding a solution? I don't think this is not a village-only problem. I think this is a broader thing, and we need to bring a coalition of the school district, of the booster clubs, of everybody, the PAC, all of those together. And I guess, getting that kind of action, at least then now we're start talking about putting a future plan together.
Anybody else? No? Okay, thank you for coming in, gentlemen.
Could I make a motion then
Yes.
to direct staff to engage in,
It's not really on the agenda.
Yeah,
not on the agenda, all right.
if you want a future agenda item. Okay, let's see. 4C, public comment. This part of the agenda allows members of the public to provide information to the village board, including items both on and off the agenda. 15 minutes will be provided for this item with a 3-minute maximum per speaker. One here for public comments. Moving on. Let's see. Approval of vouchers in the amount of $705,869.03. Chair entertain a motion. Paige and Tim. Questions or comments? Lynn?
Quick question about page 36. There's a 23,000 street improvement crack fill charge. Did that occur in December, or are we like paying for that early? It feels like December is a weird.
It did occur last year.
In December.
Yes. Is it December 25 or is it listed as 26?
Says December 1st.
The work was done, I think it was during the fall. Chief, do you remember exactly when?
Yes, because the school was kind of a
Mess.
I would say maybe it was 2 months, 3 months into school.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's probably October, November time period
Great.
that it was done.
Before it was freezing and snowing.
Correct, yes.
Great.
They're not out in
So just
snow.
checking.
Anybody else? Rick?
I'm just curious, page 41, there's a whole bunch of GPS system. Is that an upgrade or is that annual, or it talks about Samsara Incorporated, snow, ice GPS, tree brush GPS, sewer GPS?
Yep, that's an annual service. It is the GPS program on all of our vehicles so that we can track them and go back and look at records of where they were at what time, and where they are at any given time. And we do split that cost, of course, across all the different funds that have vehicles. So that's why you see all the charges. It's one annual fee, but split across a number of different funds.
Also, I'll add to, if we get a call from someone, they can see where like the staff are driving and send them quicker to someone too.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, it's a roll call vote. We have a motion by Kniffer, second by Higgins.
Peterson,
Yes.
Marks,
Yes.
Kirchdorfer,
Yes.
Higgins,
Yes.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Van Campen,
Yes,
Knipfer.
Yes.
thank you. Item 6, consent agenda, items 6A through 6E. Looking for a motion to approve. Tom? Tim? Questions on these items? Hearing none. Motion by Kirchhofer, second by Higgins. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7A, we completed. 7B, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. One, a proposal to rename the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee to the Cultivating Belonging Community, and further consider committee goals and objectives, pardon me. Thank you. Paige, did you want to?
Sure. Okay, so the DEI committee would like to thoughtfully rebrand, refocus goals, objectives. There's still open committee seats too for anyone who wants to join. Cultivating ongoing and collective effort, belonging, being accepted, valued, or connected community, or feel that we belong, the word belonging. We'd like to reframe our work in ways that feel less divisive and more unifying.
Okay. Looks like, did you want to make a motion to that effect?
Oh, yes, I'll motion to make that
Okay.
name change, please.
All right. Okay. Yes. Comments, questions?
Just say that the action here is to direct staff to draft an ordinance change reflecting the work here.
Thank you. Okay. Comments, questions? Okay, motion by Knipfer, second by Higgins. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Item 7C, Ad hoc Senior Center Building Fundraising Committee. 1, committee activities update and consideration of committee's pursuit of professional fundraising consultant services. Who's up?
You wanted me to go ahead? All right. I feel like I've already talked enough tonight. We had our first meeting of the fundraising committee. Mostly it was organizational, getting people in place and resources in place. There was a number of committee assignments that were sent out to gather additional information and so forth. One of the topics that came up was the process that the village went through to gather RFPs in relationship to fundraising, and which we basically, the people that responded to the RFP didn't really know or understand what we wanted. In the discussion, in our discussion, Rachel brought up a local, and local I mean by Madison area, consulting company, McDonald and Schaefer, and it seemed more in line what we intended originally when we talked about an RFP and we're trying to put together a fundraising proposal process. Looking at what they provide and what the services that they have, we felt like it was more along the lines of what they talk about as an advisory role, and they would help the committee organize and probably come up with solutions, and probably a more complete solution than we would have anticipated that we could do just gathering information from the resources that we have. And the committee, I guess what we're asking here is there still an appetite for spending some money to get a better program pulled together, or is that something we should not be pursuing? And I guess want to get the feedback from the board in relationship to that. And there's a couple other committee members here, and they might want to speak to it as well. And I don't, Rachel, if I left anything out.
No, I don't think so. I want to thank Tom for volunteering to chair the committee, because with my retirement pending, it'd be nice to have some continuity. But that's, the committee's meeting again later this week, and if we're going to pursue a consultant to help formulate the strategies and the plans and things that we need to pursue, I guess we'd like to have some sense before the committee continues forward about whether that might be a path that the board is interested in pursuing, because if we know that you're not, it would probably encourage us to follow a slightly different path as a committee.
Okay. Rick.
Yeah, I'm now serving as part of that committee with Tom, and I would say that originally my appetite for having somebody review our processes and a consultant without being part of the committee and kind of just reporting to the board seemed a little bit like more outsourcing than I wanted to do for the ability for us to have more control over it ourselves locally and do everything we can to save the costs of whatever outside consulting fees we'd have to pay for. I think hearing about, I wouldn't say it was a proposal, but an idea of the kind of things that a outside consultant at this level, somebody that is interested in kind of working with the committee to make sure that we're staying on task and in the right, ability to take all the information that we may have available to us as local folks and be able to have somebody that's a professional in this area look over what we're doing and making sure we're not missing a particular item or something. A real more of a bare bones outlining kind of a committee or outlining kind of a proposal. I would still be interested as a board member in funding, as long as we have most of the work that we're doing being given to us as homework rather than having a consultant do it for us.
Okay. Tim?
One of the things I had liked about the consultants we considered initially that we rejected was the fact that they would bring some expertise around identifying potential targets and crafting a message to reach those targets. And those were two areas of expertise that I was concerned we don't have within the village ourselves. And that's something where I felt like McDonald Schaefer could potentially add some of that talent to power the local fundraising committee.
Okay. So tonight you're just looking for the temperature of the board, and if they would
It would
support
be,
that?
it would be a lot easier if we knew that there was an interest in pursuing this
Mhm.
rather than spending time in a committee meeting with consultant, looking at it, trying to get a contract, those kinds of scenarios pulled together.
I, for one, would support the efforts, or what you're talking about, provided, it sounds like you're going to interview and, but perhaps add it to next month's agenda. Who else? Amanda?
That would be the intent.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, I think it's smart to get professionals in this because we don't have anybody that I know of working on this, and it has the potential to bring in enough money to cover the expenses anyway. So it makes sense to try to go this route, I think.
Okay. Lynn?
I think if you're taking the temperature, my temperature is going to be different than the rest of the board. I don't like the idea of spending what I believe is $20,000, right? 3 months at $6,900. Like, I will be opposed.
Okay. Okay, any other comments on this item?
Thank you for your support.
Yep, moving on. Thank you. Item 8, unfinished business, items for discussion and or possible action. A, review the 2026 preliminary debt and financing plan. Staff recommendation, motion to direct staff to finalize financing plan as presented and preserve the set sale parameters financing resolution for April 6, 2026 village board meeting. Let's get that motion on the table. Higgins, Kirstover, Martin, I think you're way up.
All right. This item is continuing on from the item that was on the last village board agenda, covering the annual debt financing and capital funding for the 2026 calendar year. Not a ton that has changed since the last meeting, other than a little bit of the financing structuring and the use of cash. But overall, as I mentioned at the last meeting, what we were expecting last fall when we did the capital plan and budget is starting to fall pretty much well in line with where we're at today. We are looking at one general obligation note that's coming in around 17.5, 17.6 million. We were looking at about 17.7, 17.8 last fall, so just a little bit less there than what we expected. On the water side, we're probably looking at somewhere around a $4 to $5 million water revenue bond, which is right in line with where we thought where we would be last year, which was around 5.2 million, so a little bit less than that. And then on the sewer side, we had estimated about 1.1 million for borrowing this year, and we've concluded that we don't need to borrow anything for the sewer other than what's covered under some clean water fund loans. So all in all, I guess the proposed borrowing that's being put forward is better than we had projected, ever so slightly, which is a good thing. In the packet, Ellers, the village's financial advisor, has put together some preliminary financing plan tables, so you can see sort of the overall structure of how these things are starting to look like. We'll have a little bit more refinements and things to look like to conduct here before we finish it off, but overall it's generally going to be what you're starting to see here in the packet. The debt impact analysis that we always look at the debt capacity, and then the property tax impact are all looking slightly better than what we projected last fall, if not marginally so, but that's good in that direction. The only really probably significant thing that's changed since the last meeting is we've modified some of the cash use versus debt use structure on some of the items. We're really prioritizing getting as much debt cash to the senior center project as we can, because that project is going to move along quite quickly. And so we've upped the use of the debt capacity $1 million to the senior center project versus some of the other items that were in there previously. And so to fund those items, we're going to use a little bit of our cash balances that we keep. Now, a lot of that is funds that are specifically set aside for certain projects. I know the board knows the project out here at the intersection of Alpine and CC. That one's entirely funded by 1.4 million in development impact fees. We have some borrowing last year that we're carrying for some projects that were not completed or came in under budget that can be used this year. We had over borrowed, quote unquote, for street improvements last year when we didn't know if we were going to get a $600,000 federal grant or not that we had been told we were going to get, but we are going to get it. So we do have some of those funds available to use for projects this year. But otherwise, looking at spending down some of our capital balances on equipment and street work, in my opinion, to still within reasonable levels, but not to a level that I would go any further on, just so we have some cash kept back on emergencies or things that might come up. So overall, as I said, I think the plan that we set last fall is starting to come almost right into place, if not marginally slightly better from a financial impact standpoint. But yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions or dive any deeper into anything here.
Lynn?
Sorry. I just have one quick question. On page 92, I still see the 235 North Main Street CDBG project.
Yeah.
We've taken that out,
That'll
right?
come out, yep.
Great, thanks.
Anybody else? No? Okay, we have a motion by Hagan, second by Kirchhofer. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Item 9, new business items for discussion and or possible action. A, ordinance number 26-03, an ordinance to repeal chapter 8.12 and to create a chapter 21 of the Village of Oregon Municipal Code related to solid waste and recycling. Staff recommendation. Motion to approve. Peterson and McDaniel. This is just a function of DNR changed language, so we need to change our ordinance. Questions on this one?
I was a little confused about one thing.
Mm-hmm.
If I can find it here. screen's going crazy. I think it was page 132. And maybe this is less about the ordinance and more about the communication. There's a list of things that can't go in the garbage can, but they don't all go in the recycling bin, and I felt like that made it a little confusing.
There are some things like that, especially like lead acid batteries.
Exactly.
Yeah, so those are things that someone has to dispose of through systems not made available by the village or periodically, depending on the, like electronics waste, things like that. So not everything will be a weekly or every 2-week pickup.
I guess what I was looking for was a way of clearly communicating that to the community, that as we're sending this out, that says this is what you do with that stuff. That's more focused on, if you have a lead acid battery, here's what you do, and if you have these other things, that's what you do.
Yeah, and that might
Probably
change.
doesn't have to be in the ordinance, maybe, right?
Not in the ordinance, but and it might change over time, whatever opportunities are available. So communication is.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, a lot of that information is on our website as well.
Okay.
We work a lot with the Clean Sweep program too, and we really push that out. A lot of people call for that kind of stuff, and like Melissa, who is excellent at the front, she's like the guru of where everything needs to go, like electronics, batteries.
So
There's a lot of
the
local.
communication's available. then.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is an education component of being a responsible unit, and that is one of them, is to maintain that information and update that information. And yeah, it's the way you get into the statutory language, it's a little like not intuitive.
Right.
So I mean, all these items are recyclable, but they have to have some other programs that we don't maybe offer specifically, right? So there's a lot of things that as we're going through this, it's like this doesn't like logically intuit, but like that, yeah, there's other components that have to be part of this, including the education component.
Yeah, another example of that is yard waste is listed there, and this community has probably the best, most accessible yard waste disposal and communication about it too. So.
Well, then the only other thing I'll say for the public is I spent an afternoon once in a recycling sorting center, and I have never not rinsed my recycling after spending a summer afternoon in a recycling center. Rinse those soda and beer bottles.
I will say that Pelletary has some good videos out there too for consumers to look at that kind of explain how your recycles. So that's all out there too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? All right, we have a motion by Peterson, second by McDaniel. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Item 10, reports of village officers, department heads, and consultants. This is for information only. A, the village administrator report, including report on passage of 2025 Wisconsin Act 91 relating to the technical correction of fire and EMS funding. I'll just take a moment to acknowledge Martin's efforts and if I could use the word, some badgering that hope you won't be offended by that, but it was very successful. Yes, I would thank you, Tim. That's a better word. Did you have anything to add on that, Martin?
I think there's no doubt that I picked local government correctly in pursuit of government profession. I just want to, in credit due to our legislators that represent us, they were very, very helpful and with us through this whole 16-month odyssey, and we got through it. Just want to give a couple special shout outs that I should have mentioned. Want to mention Trustee Higgins. Came to one of the testimonies that I had to give up there at the Capitol and was very appreciative for a familiar face there and support, as well as the town of Rutland Town Chair Kent Knutson was also came up and was a friendly face there too. So yeah, 16-month odyssey, and glad it's behind us and corrected the right way.
Okay. Let's see, next is Police Chief Report, media release from March 8th, 2026 regarding operating while intoxicated possession of a firearm. Included in the packet. Chief, did you have something?
Yeah, I'll just add, I know I've talked to the Public Safety Committee about this before, but Quick Trip just continues to be a great public safety partner to us. They were the ones that made us aware of an intoxicated driver. We got over there right away, and then our officers, as they were interacting with this individual, could clearly see the firearms in the vehicle. One, a pretty high-powered handgun, or a firearm, so it was good we got these into our possession right away. So just kudos to Quick Trip for doing that, and they've been there for us a couple times.
Great.
Really stepping up. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's great to hear.
And Tennessee Oregon Area Senior Center 2025 Community Impact Report in your packet.
An awkward size that doesn't fit on the screen very well, apparently. There we go. This is just a quick look at the community impact the senior center had last year. We, this year, went ahead and looked at the numbers from last year, but also added them to the numbers since 2015 so that you could get a longer look at, what a difference the center makes in the lives of local older adults. So it's pretty simple, pretty obvious stuff. I was sort of surprised to think about having been responsible for over 77,000 home-delivered meals in that period of time, and 47,000 meals that were either served at the senior center or when we had the program partnering with Ziggy's at the restaurant, the My Meal, My Way program. That's a lot of meals for people in the community since 2015. Likewise, the rides add up, they're significant. The exercise classes have been just constantly growing since I started at the center. And the very last column on the right, but certainly not the least column, is just, again, a credit to all the volunteers that help make the senior center run, because without those hours, we wouldn't be able to accomplish all those other things in those other categories. And then the next page of the impact report has a lot more words, some statistics about what's really been increasing. In some ways, I'm seeing increases slow down a little bit, but it's because we've maxed out our building. There's just not a lot more we can do there. We can't fit many more people in some of these things. As you can see from that lower left-hand picture of the exercise class, you walk in our front door and you can step on somebody's face if you're not careful. Yeah. And then on the other side, thank you for the support you've all been to the new building process. We've certainly made a tremendous amount of progress in 2025 towards that new building. The image on the lower right is of the lobby of the new building. And then in between, a thank you to our funders and just a little wrap up of some of the things that were new in 2025. The last page is usage statistics. We always provide these to everybody who helps support the center, gives people an idea of just how many people are using the center for what purposes. And as always, I'm happy to take questions about these. The number of seniors, I hope this is self-explanatory. I usually get some questions about it. So if you look at the Village of Oregon, 150 seniors received 1,530 and a half hours of case management. So you read the number of seniors and then the number of times the service was provided. So there were 30 people in the village who received home-delivered meals, and they received 3,337 of them. So I'd be happy to take any questions, but really, thank you for the support that you offer to the center. Some of you are volunteers at the center. Some of you are cheerleaders for the center. All of you are appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question for Rachel or comments? Yeah.
the staff does a great job, and those volunteers are amazing.
The observer will call it a smattering of applause.
Yes, light applause. Okay, oops, pardon me. Okay, item 11, A, announcements, comments, communications, upcoming meetings and events, and miscellaneous business. Department heads or staff, do you have any tonight? Chief,
Just
please.
one briefly, and I apologize, this is now after the fact, but the same day that we had that OWI arrest, I went over to the First Presbyterian Church. I was invited to come in and speak with some of the people that attend church there. I would say there were probably about 30 to 40. Very engaging conversation. The biggest interest was how is public safety going to keep up with community growth. So we talked about that and the efforts right now that are going on. But I really enjoyed it. They were very welcoming, and I look forward to any more. I can come back and talk to them.
Great. Anybody else? Board members? Tim?
Shamrock Shakes at the Firefly tomorrow. Tomorrow only.
Okay. Any other pertinent announcements? Sorry, Tim. Okay, item 11, future agenda items. This item gives village board members the opportunity to place a topic on a future agenda for discussion, possible action. Tom?
In reference to the earlier discussion in relationship to working to find a solution to the currently broken OCA funding process.
Okay. Without objection, we'll end that. Item 12, the village board will consider a motion to convene in closed session for the following purposes. A, to discuss the annual performance evaluation of the village administrator. This is pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85 sub 1 sub C, which authorizes a closed session for considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction. And B, to deliberate or negotiate the purchasing of public properties or the investing of public funds related to the acquisition of a permanent limited easement from People's United Church Incorporated at 103 North Alpine Parkway to accommodate rerouting a public sidewalk as part of the 2026 North Alpine Parkway and County Trunk Highway CC intersection reconstruction project. This is pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.85 sub 1 sub E, which authorizes a closed session for deliberating and negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conducting other specific public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. The chair will entertain a motion to go into closed session. First over in Higgins. Questions, comments? All right, we have a motion, but,
It's good.
oh, I'm sorry. I mean, I knew better.
Alright. McDaniel,
Yes.
Knipfer,
Yes.
Van Kampen,
Yes,
Marks,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Kirchdorfer,
Yes.
and Higgins.
Yes.
thank you. We are in closed session.